Fear. Fear is a base emotional and physical reaction programmed into us and our ancestors for eons, specifically intended to keep us alive. You've certainly felt this overwhelming dread before. It may have been while you were at home alone and heard an unrecognizable sound from another room. Perhaps you felt as if you were being watched. Or you suddenly realized just how vulnerable you are alone in the dead of night while walking an empty street or in the wilderness. That fear is instinctual, much of the time appearing before we even think about the situation. There is good reason to ignore it much of the time, but your ancestors and many animals evolved that visceral reaction for a purpose. Do you wonder if those who disappeared felt that same sense of dread and tried reasoning it away just like we all do in those situations, before never being seen again? Cynthia Anderson. Our current understanding of nightmares is that they occur due to some sort of psychological state, such as anxiety. However, in Cynthia Anderson's case, her nightmares seem to be more akin to premonitions. As early as the spring of 1981, 20-year-old Cynthia was plagued with dreams of a mysterious stranger abducting and murdering her. On August 4th, 1981, Anderson arrived at the law firm she was employed at on East Manhattan Boulevard in Toledo, Ohio. Up until 9:45 a.m., she took phone calls, but soon afterwards, her unanswered calls built up, eventually leading to her coworkers checking up on her. Cynthia wasn't there. It seemed she wasn't anywhere. Her office was found locked, and the romance novel she had been reading was found open on her desk to a sequence where the heroine was violently abducted. Her vehicle was still in the parking lot and locked, but her car keys and purse were both missing. Cynthia's former coworker, Larry Mullins, recalled that she had received a phone call the day before that terrified her enough that Larry actually called the police to do a drive-by checkup on her. Cynthia's bank account and social security number were never touched after she disappeared, and no concrete evidence as to where she went and why has ever been found. Brian Schaeffer. On Saturday, April 1st, 2006, Brian Schaeffer, a 27-year-old medical student attending Ohio State University, decided to kick spring break off with two of his friends at the Ugly Tuna Saloona. Brian and his two friends could be seen on security camera entering the bar at around 1 a.m., and Brian was later seen outside of the bar at 1:50 a.m. talking to two women before heading back inside the bar. That was the last time Brian was seen on camera or by his two friends. Yes, Brian disappeared re-entering the bar, not exiting it. Brian's friends looked for him around the bar and the bathrooms, but were unable to find him and thought he may have left already. Security cameras surround the building holding the Ugly Tuna, but no camera caught Brian leaving the bar or building. There was minor construction going on just outside of the bar that was unmonitored. However, navigating through it while possibly drunk would have been difficult, and a police search that Sunday found no evidence of Brian. Brian told his friends he would propose to his girlfriend the next week while on vacation with her before he vanished. Diamond Bynum and King Walker. This case is a very frustrating one. Last year, on July 25, 2015, sometime between 6 and 11 a.m., 21-year-old Diamond and her 2-year-old nephew King disappeared from their family home in Gary, Indiana. Diamond Bynum is disabled with Prader-Willi syndrome and is said to have the mind of a child. She also has difficulty communicating with others and most likely would not know the way home. The family and police believe that the two left their home on Matthew Street after King's grandmother had fallen asleep. Diamond was either looking to pick up food at the nearby gas station or perhaps gifts for her father's upcoming birthday. Police dogs were able to track the two south of the local gas station to nearly 1 mile away, with the trail disappearing here at the railroad tracks. It took the family a lot of prodding just to get video footage from the gas station, but unfortunately, the camera didn't capture Diamond or King. Police have also received reports that the two were seen near a McDonald's 2 miles from the home to the east, but since then, nothing has turned up. The family is still actively searching and maintain a Facebook page which can be found in the description below. Loreen Ron. During the evening of April 26, 1980, in Manchester, New Hampshire, 14-year-old Loreen asked her mother Judith Ron if she could stay at home alone while her mother went on a trip out of town to see her boyfriend. After her mother left, Loreen invited a female and male friend over to her apartment. Apparently the three shared an alcoholic drink before the male friend slipped out the back door of the apartment early to avoid getting into trouble. Judith arrived back at the apartment building around midnight, and bizarrely found that every light bulb in the 3 hallways of the apartment building had been unscrewed. She also found her own apartment door unlocked, but believed that she saw her daughter asleep in her bed. The next morning, she was horrified to find that it wasn't Loreen asleep in her room, but instead her female friend who said Loreen was asleep on the couch in the living room. Loreen's clothing, shoes, and purse had all been left in the living room, though Loreen was nowhere to be found. Loreen is still missing today, with little progress made in her case. Craig Freer. June 27, 2004, Schenectady County, New York. At 2 p.m. in the northeastern corner of Scotia, 17-year-old Craig, a 5'11", 190-pound soccer player, had just left the home of one of his friends on Cambridge Manor Drive. An hour before, he had told his mother that he was on his way home, but 2 witnesses reported him headed toward the wooded area behind the apartments in a direction not toward his home. This was especially strange, as he had driven his vehicle to the apartment, yet set off on foot. The 2 witnesses mentioned earlier said Craig turned around and playfully made the quiet gesture to them with his finger to his lips before disappearing into the small wooded area. Now, it's been 12 years since anyone last saw him, even with the nearby residents and police searching the relatively small wooded area for years. Freer had no money, ID, or cell phone at the time, and had lost his job the week before without telling anyone. Police don't believe Craig committed suicide, and as you can see from the location, it is unbelievable that he somehow just evaporated in such a small area. Michael Negrete. December 10th, 1999. Michael was a freshman at UCLA and had just returned to his dorm room in Dijkstra Hall from a party celebrating the last day of the fall semester. After that, he and a friend on the same floor played an online game on their PCs until 4 a.m. At that point, Michael logged off of his computer, and everything afterwards is merely speculation. Michael's roommate awoke at 9 a.m. and noticed that he was missing, so sometime between 4 and 9 a.m., Michael had left the room for unknown reasons. Investigators theorized he either left his room to talk to the friend he played with on the same floor, but never made it, or left Dijkstra Hall at 4:35 a.m., as some witnesses believed they had seen someone matching his description. After that, nothing. Michael vanished without a trace of evidence to be found. All of his possessions were still in his dorm room, he wasn't known to abuse illegal substances, and his bank account has not been accessed since his disappearance. Search dogs apparently tracked his scent to Sunset Boulevard, yet nothing but this sketch of a possible witness has been released in relation to the case. Jennifer Kess. January 23, 2006, Orlando, Florida. 24-year-old Jennifer Kess was returning home from her place of work at Westgate Resorts at around 6 p.m. She arrived home at her condo safely and called her family to let them know she was home. The last call Kess made that night was at 10 p.m. to her boyfriend, which would be the last time she was heard from. The next day, her family and boyfriend were both unable to contact her and had reported her missing by that afternoon. 2 days later, a tenant at an apartment just a mile away saw her vehicle on the news and was able to identify it as the vehicle parked outside of their condo. Security footage around the apartment complex showed a person of interest parking the vehicle at around noon the day Jennifer had disappeared. But due to an unfortunate fluke, each picture a security camera took of the person left his or her face obstructed by a fence. Jennifer remains on the FBI's most wanted missing list today. Merchant vessel Jowita. On November 10, 1955, in the southern Pacific Ocean just north of Vanua Levu, a semi-sunken Jowita with no crew was found drifting. 5 weeks before the Jowita was found drifting, its 25 passengers and crew departed at 5 a.m. on a trip that should have taken just 2 days. The electric clocks on board had stopped at 10:25 p.m., meaning that less than a day into the trip, something happened to the Jowita. The condition of the ship was bizarre. Mattresses and blankets were piled into the engine room around a working and non-flooded engine. All 4 tons of the cargo on the ship had disappeared. A doctor's bag was found with 4 rows of bloody bandages inside. Several areas near the bridge were damaged, and faulty wiring caused the Jowita's distress signals range to only reach about 2 miles. All 3 of the lifeboats and the dinghy were also missing, perhaps carrying the passengers. The Jowita's hull was lined with cork, making it incredibly difficult to sink, so the captain would surely have stayed near the vessel if in distress. All 25 crew members and passengers are listed as missing today, and the question of what happened still remains. Tara Grinstead. Tara Grinstead, a 30-year-old high school history teacher from Ocilla, Georgia, was last seen at 11 p.m. by others while she was helping with makeup at a beauty pageant on October 22, 2005. Tara returned to her home on the 700 block of West 3rd Street that evening, but after she failed to appear at both church and work on Monday, she was reported missing. Grinstead's home was found locked by the police, and her clothes and cell phone were all inside. A business card was left in her front door, her bedroom alarm clock was on the floor broken, her bedpost had been damaged, and a single latex glove was found on her lawn. Oddly, her vehicle was found unlocked with cash inside, but the seat had been adjusted to fit someone much taller than Tara. 3 suspects were questioned in her case, the first being her ex-boyfriend of 6 years, the second a former student who had been arrested for harassing her, and the third was a married police officer who the business card belonged to. None of the 3 men had a steady alibi that covered the 34-hour period in Tara's disappearance, and the DNA within the latex glove matched neither Tara nor any of the men. In 2010, Tara was declared dead, though no remains or evidence as to what happened to her have surfaced. Joan Rish. On October 24, 1961, in Lincoln, Massachusetts at around 2 p.m., Joan Rish left her 4-year-old daughter Lillian at their neighbor's home to play with their son Douglas Barker without informing anyone. Lillian was eventually led back home, but 2 hours later, at around 4:15 p.m., Lillian was found outside of her home visibly confused and told Douglas's mother, "Mommy is gone and the kitchen is covered with red paint." Inside the home, spots of blood could be found around the house, with smears of blood found on the walls and floor. Someone had tried to mop up some of the blood using paper towels and clothing, but left it unfinished. A phone book had been opened to the emergency numbers, but the phone itself had been ripped from the wall. Motorists along Route 128 noticed a woman matching Joan's description at around 2:55 p.m., clutching her abdomen and wandering the side of the road, covered in what was most likely blood. Soon after, no others had made any report of seeing a woman walking the side of the road, and Joan was never seen again. Strangely, it was discovered that Joan had checked out 25 books from the local library about murders and disappearances, though she did formerly work as a publisher. Robert Hahn. 5 years ago, on April 8, 2011, Robert Hahn, dressed in his work uniform, kissed his wife Tara goodbye, and left his home in Columbia for work as an electrician in Richmond, Virginia at 6 a.m. Robert didn't return home that day, and any phone calls Tara made only gave her voicemail. After investigating, the Fluvanna County Sheriff's Department found that Robert had stopped to eat breakfast at the EW grocery store in Palmyra, the opposite direction of Richmond, and was recognized by his former co-workers there. They also found that Robert was not actually scheduled to work that day. 7 weeks later, Tara's vehicle was found abandoned in a Target parking lot over 100 miles away in La Plata, Maryland. Adding more mystery to his disappearance, Robert's doctor told police that Robert was prescribed cardiac medication for a heart condition that he needed to take every day. Simply missing a day of medication could lead to symptoms such as nausea, and a week without medication could be life-threatening. Last year, police revealed that Robert was supposed to meet Daniel Fennell, a man who happened to be charged with possession and intent to distribute drugs in 2011, though Robert had apparently never arrived for their meeting less than a mile from where he was last seen. No convictions have been made in Robert's case, and he remains missing today. Rebecca Corium. On March 21, 2011, 24-year-old Rebecca Corium was reported missing to her parents by a Disney official after she failed to turn up for her morning shift, and a subsequent search of the ship for her turned up nothing. Corium's parents flew to meet with a Bahamian officer where the ship was docked, but were not allowed to speak to any crew members about their daughter. Disney and the investigator claimed that CCTV footage and sandals found on the deck led them to believe that Corium had been washed overboard while near the crew pull on Deck 5. But it was easy enough to poke holes in the investigation when the sandals were found to have a different name on them, and the CCTV footage actually showed that Rebecca was on Deck 1 before she disappeared. Further adding to the mystery, someone attempted to access Rebecca's bank account 2 months after she disappeared, and her Facebook password was changed as well. Rebecca's disappearance is not being treated as suspicious by the Bahamian police, and Disney has provided no further updates to Rebecca's parents. Derek C. Hassan. Derek C. Hassan was a 26-year-old soon-to-graduate medical student at the University of Southern California, described as very intelligent and athletic by his loved ones. All of Derek's last sightings were on security footage. At 10:33 p.m. on August 5, 2014, Derek was seen entering Vaughn's on Alvarado Street near Echo Park in Los Angeles, California. While inside, Derek was seen withdrawing $200 in cash from an ATM and purchased cereal and milk before leaving at 10:38 p.m. In the next 2 hours, Derek went back home and ate cereal before driving to his friend's apartment on the 1000 block of Wilshire, which his friend had lent him while on vacation, to drop off his friend's keys earlier than expected. After returning home once again, Derek was last seen on 3 different security cameras from 11:55 p.m. to 12:02 a.m. walking alone, only carrying his ID and the money he withdrew previously, before most likely taking a bus. 1 month later, on September 5th, the LAPD were alerted to footage of a man that looked similar to Derek near San Diego. It's considered odd that Derek left alone on foot, as he has plantar fasciitis, which causes chronic pain in the heel. Derek's own father had disappeared twice before without telling anyone in Derek's adolescence due to stress, though Derek was known to be happy and is thought to be alive by friends and family. However, after 2 years, his whereabouts and why he disappeared are still unknown. Velma Cruc. On July 11, 2015, in Winnipeg, Manitoba, Velma Cruc left her home in Harborview South for a morning walk at about 7:20 a.m., as she did frequently while training for a hike later that year. Her grandson's birthday was that afternoon, and she was going to be picking up his cake after her husband picked her up at Canadian Tire at 10 a.m. However, Velma didn't call her husband at 10 a.m. and missed her grandson's birthday party that afternoon, leading her family to report her missing and to call upon the local community to help search for her. Days after her disappearance, police found her glasses near Civic Park just over a mile from her home, and her cell phone would later be found in the same area. Velma had no known health issues, but police believe she either had a medical event or was randomly abducted by an unknown individual. This security footage is the last time Velma was seen, though nothing seems out of the ordinary, and it was recorded minutes after she left home. Witnesses in the park reported nothing unusual, and last month marked 1 year since Velma went missing. An active Facebook page dedicated to finding Velma can be found in the description below. Missing boy of Somosierra. Andres Martinez, a truck driver, his wife Carmen Gomez, and their 10-year-old son Juan were all traveling together for a family vacation while Andres made a delivery from central to northern Spain. The truck Andres drove was a Volvo F12 carrying 20,000 liters of reagent-grade sulfuric acid. A scary-sounding load, but Andres was an experienced driver at this point. On June 28, 1986, at around 6 a.m., the truck the Martinez family was in began speeding up as it descended down the Somosierra mountain pass, forcing 2 other trucks off of the road before Andres' truck slammed into another truck in the opposite lane at nearly 140 kilometers per hour, rupturing the tank of sulfuric acid the truck was carrying. Emergency workers were quickly dispatched to the area in order to evacuate injured parties and neutralize the acid with lime and sand to prevent an environmental disaster. The bodies of both Andres and his wife Carmen were eventually pulled from the wreckage and had suffered mild acid burns, but there was no sign of Juan. Many immediately thought Juan had been dissolved by the acid. However, it would take over 24 hours for the flesh of a body fully submersed in acid to dissolve, while bones, hair, and fingernails would certainly be left after the acid was so quickly neutralized. Days of searching the area yielded no clues to Juan's location, and even more confusingly, the truck's brakes were not damaged. The pile of lime and sand from the aftermath is still viewable from both satellite and roadside today, and Juan was never found dead or alive. If you'd like to learn more about any of these cases, please check the description below for sources and discussions. Till next video, watch your back. While we were making this video, there was an update to the number 2 case in our last disappearances list. The remains of Jacob Wetterling were found on September 3rd, 27 years after he was abducted and declared missing. Danny Heinrich led officials to Wetterling's remains as part of a plea deal and admitted to kidnapping and killing Jacob. Our hearts go out to his parents, who held out hope for so long.